What's happening, guys? Welcome to 16W today without Norman. He is, I believe, on a sleeping exhibition. He's hitting like every room around the house, snoring and farting, and then moving on to the next room. He's like the aliens from Independence Day. They take over a planet. He takes over a room. They get what they need from that room, and then he gets what he needs from that room, and he goes to the next. They got what they needed from the planets and went to the next one. So he's kind of like Independence Day alien in that regard. Don't mind me today. I'm having a bit of a bad hair day on a Monday. No sense of consequence there. I've been having a bad face life and mostly bad body life that I've learned to work around. So we'll continue to do that here. Just wanted to check in and tell you about this documentary that I watched last night, and it's the creepiest thing. I don't know if any of you guys have HBO Max. Don't know what that is. I'll edit that out in post-production. HBO Max is, like everything else, Hulu, Netflix, another subscription service. I basically only signed up for it to see the Zack Snyder cut. That's this DC Batman nerd. Basically, like instead of doing a 3-hour or 4-hour movie, he broke this up, did his full extended version of what his vision of the DC stuff is, and kind of bring it to to HBO Max in I think it's like 4, maybe 5 different parts of I think like 90 minutes each. It's like something ridiculous. And I may be totally wrong. I'm just talking out of my ass with the timing. That's what I think I heard, but I could be completely wrong. So when anybody listens to this and goes, the hell, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's a newbie when it comes to comic book talk and the Marvel DC universe. And I will tell you why I am not a novice to that. The difference between the Marvel movies and why they're so great and why the DC falls short, in my opinion, as a slightly above novice comic book superhero expert, air quotes. What Marvel did is they built characters over like Iron Man, Captain America, Hulk. Even though Hulk changed a couple times in the movies, they built up those characters. So you had a little bit of origin stories, and you had all of the developed characters as you had them. And then when it got to the point where it became the Avengers, you already had pretty much everybody's backstory, or you knew them from cameos in other movies, and they built it up. And I think Avengers, the first one, is like the 10th maybe or 11th movie in like the whole installment, something like that. Again, I'm just bullshitting that. We watched all 18 of them at one point when it was only 18. I think it's more now. So they built the characters up, and then they brought them all together. The thing that DC has done, and yes, there's the comedy part of Marvel that's into their stuff, and the darkness of DC. I don't really think that plays a big part in it. I think people go to Batman for some darkness. Obviously, by the Christopher Nolan trilogy, I mean, people dug that, but that was, again, an origin story, a master villain, and a sort of like a run off into the sunset of a trilogy. So, and they were great, and they were dark. So I don't think it's really a dark or a comedic thing. For me, Batman's always been my favorite. I think, and Superman never really my favorite. I mean, you could see, sometimes you could see in the camera shot, I have Batman and Superman. Those are like Mego action figures from when I was a kid. And I have other ones, but those are the 3 that I display. So Batman and Superman, I always liked Batman better. Just because Superman became boring. There was no way to, they had to come up with all these crazy ways to kill him, to do all these things to get rid of him. Lex Luthor wasn't enough, and whatever. So Batman was my favorite, but when you get to this new iteration of these films, they kind of threw Batman right in with him, Dawn of Justice. He was thrown right into that. There was no the Batman origin movie for that. It was like all of a sudden he's in a buddy movie with a superhero that's stronger than him and could kill him at any moment, and his technology doesn't work. And that movie fell flat because you're throwing too much into it. You're expecting the audience to just pick up and realize where you are in different phases of comics and throw these characters together. You know, Batman's later in life, Superman never ages, so you don't know what. It's all sorts of tricky stuff. And one of the things two of the things I've watched about this that were really good is Kevin Smith did a whole thing on at one point he was supposed to, I think, do Superman, and Nick Cage, I think, or Nick Cage was supposed to be Superman one time, and then Nick Cage was supposed to be Superman one time. It was a documentary showing him in his costume and stuff. It was a dark version of Superman. And then the funny thing is that what's his name? Kevin Smith from Clerks and all Mallrats and that stuff. He was supposed to write the initial like new version of Batman, I think it was, or one of the, it was Superman. So he was supposed to write a new version of that based on his experience with the comics, and he wrote a story that was, they basically shit all over him for what he wrote, and then took parts of his story and basically put it into the newer movies, the new Superman movie, the new Batman movie. And then all of a sudden it's like Dawn of Justice, Justice League, and now you've just thrown in Flash, Cyborg, and Aquaman before their origin stories ever come out. So that so this whole Zack Snyder thing is basically the long drawn out version. I'm assuming it's going to have origin stories for each one of them to kind of develop their character, so that when they come together at the end, where how Justice League got cut up and whatever. So that's that's HBO Max. That's why I signed up for HBO Max. What I watched last night was absolutely, I mean, it's disturbing. It always disturbed me the whole time it was going on, but hearing about it from the inside, it was super disturbing. So I don't know if you have HBO Max, but if you do, if there's some other way to get it, I'm assuming not for at least a little while. There's a 4-part documentary called Allen versus Farrow, and it talks about Mia Farrow and Woody Allen and their relationship with each other and with her children, and then ultimately with his one child. So the long and the short of it is, Mia Farrow was an actress in Rosemary's Baby. Woody Allen's a director, who's directed a ton of great stuff. Neither one of them ever really did anything for me. Like, she's way before my time, and I never really liked his smarmy character type deal. I wasn't ever into him really. So, but I knew of the story, and the story that I always knew was, you know what, Mia Farrow had an adopted daughter named Soon Yi, Mia Farrow and Woody Allen were dating while she was still young, and then as she got older, or maybe not, that, you know, kind of deal, he started to have a relationship with her, and then and what the documentary said last night, it wasn't until the first year of college for her, so, you know, timing of that, whatever, but either way, they're not related. It's kind of creepy. It's, you know, not even his stepdaughter, it's his girlfriend's daughter. He ends up hooking up with her, and I think they've been together still to this day. So he's I guess good with that relationship. But the whole thing talks about how they meet by chance. They get together. He's not interested in her kids. Flat out says, "I'm not interested in your kids." She's a actress-ish at that point in her life. I think this is like late 70s, early 80s, and she is she's living in New York with her mother and her 7 adopted children. I think they're all adopted. No, she had 2 from one guy, I think 2 from another guy. You'd have to watch the specifics on that, but she had 7 total. And she meets Woody Allen by chance. They kind of hang out and talk, and he basically tells her flat out, a couple of the things he said flat out were just kind of creepy. Was he told her flat out, "Look, I would like to see you, but I want nothing to do with your kids." Okay, I mean, that's straight up, that's baller if she's going to go for it, and you can, if you're not into that. But she was, she says it was a different time. I liked having my boyfriend. I liked having my kids. I didn't have to worry about it getting too commingled. So she dug that. So she continues along with this relationship, and he starts to warm up to one of her adopted sons, and apparently to one of her adopted daughters, however later that became. But then I think she went to adopt another baby, and she got a daughter named Dylan. And there's a quote in there somewhere to the effect of, paraphrasing, "I'll only deal with a baby if it's blonde hair and blue-eyed girl," something to that effect. And like, that's fucking creepy, dude. Like, you're cherry picking. Are you for, I guess, I don't know, it's gonna get controversial if I say this. He's a Jewish guy, and he wants like what Hitler was trying to create with his in his breeding programs in Germany. Big, tall, blonde hair, blue eyed, whatever. But that's what he wanted, a little blonde hair, blue eyed girl, and they ended up getting, I think, adopting Dylan, and she. Because they tried to get pregnant or something like that, they couldn't because he finally caved in and said he wanted a kid, and then they get Dylan. By the time she's, I think, 5 years old, and he's overly affectionate to her the whole time. Like every home video you see, it's always, now that you know the story, maybe that it's a little bit awkward. Maybe to the naked eye, it didn't seem that way, but in the show, they kind of allude to having an idea what was going on, but their daughter goes to see this, I guess, child psychologist at like 5, and she says, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with her, but ended up telling the therapist that she had a secret, like multiple times. I have a secret. And the therapist never relayed that message back to Mia Farrow, so it kind of slipped through, and the therapist gave the impression that she was okay, just coming out of her shell type of stuff. Then some stuff continues. He gets kind of busted again, and it got so creepy. One of the things I thought was the creepiest thing, Dylan forgot one of her favorite teddy bears in a hotel in some country in Europe. They were now in another country in Europe filming. Woody Allen sent a private jet, or bought a first class ticket for someone to go get that bear and put the bear in a first class ticket seat to go from one country to another country in Europe. So that she would have the teddy bear the next day. So, it's a little overboard. I mean, I do a lot for my nieces and my nephews. I don't know if I'd buy them a first class plane ticket for them, let alone for a teddy bear. But this is kind of his infatuation with this little girl, and people start to notice they're still together, and even though it's creepy stuff going on. And they have, finally, Mia Farrow, she's pregnant, and she has a baby boy, Satchel, who has ultimately changed his name to Ronan. And Ronan Farrow is the writer, the brilliant writer, who unearthed the whole Harvey Weinstein Me Too, which in turn prompted the Me Too stuff. So, now, I don't want to get into the whole how far is the pendulum swinging with anti-Me Too and what is Me Too and what's not Me Too. I think it's clear that if someone feels uncomfortable by another person's actions, that could turn into that could turn into a Me Too moment when someone, who knows what someone feels violated for. I know the things that violate me. A lot of times it could be just someone in line at a store talking my ear off for 10 minutes while I'm trying to check out with melting ice cream. So, for me, my barometer is a little bit off, but, so this kid, I'm thinking to myself, this man, Ronan, as I'm watching it, I'm thinking, is his insight as a child to seeing what was going on with his sister, who I think was 2 or 4 years older than him, seeing that environment as a kid growing up, does that make him acutely aware to be able to sniff out whether or not, from a story, vagueless story, hearing from somebody else, he said, that sounds like something from my childhood, and does it prompt it that way, or is he just a good investigative reporter and it just happened to happen that way? But it seemed like, as I was watching it, a weird correlation, for him to be able to identify that as I was watching it. Another creepy thing was, at one point, I guess Dylan was infatuated with the Wizard of Oz, and Woody Allen basically had his production crew on one of his movies build her like a pair of ruby slippers and make them from the prop department to go in and do that. It's like, just that I could see doing. He has access to it. That's one thing. The airfare thing was another thing. But either way, knowing the story, it came across creepily. So, and I may have been a little bit tired by the time the end of it was, like dozing in and out, because I had it on pretty late last night. But at one point, I believe it ends with Dylan talking about after Sunyi gets discovered. Dylan, the last expression she says on screen is, "Well, I realized this was going on with my sister. Me too," or I'm not the only one. I think it was Me Too, but it sounded better in the dream I was having that it would be me too. It would kind of be, symmetrical, simpatico, that they buttoned it up that way. But it could have been something else. I don't know. I was pretty sleepy at that point. And then that was really good. I watched that last night. And then the other day I was looking online, and I get like these headlines come up on my phone. I don't know if anybody else has this. Like, I have a few apps on my phone, and I must have set notifications wrong, but occasionally I'll get a story. So like people online sends me a story, and I'm like, it's such a bad headline. It doesn't even make me interested in wanting to, not in the slightest. It's an immediate swipe left and get that thing off my phone, because I don't even want the remnants of it. It's like, so now, like, if the headline is, hey, as a human race, we just landed something on Mars, a rover on Mars to explore space exploration for the next 1,000 years of our existence. If we're somehow able to, if we go ahead and end up wrecking the planet or whatever ends up happening here, we'll have an outlet. Then I'm like, wow, I'll put that 3-minute read, 4-minute read, 5-minute read into that article. But when the People online headline is Wilmer Valderrama becomes a dad, I'm so not interested. Like, why do I care? The guy is like a notorious player. It's like, he was dropping his line in the water for the past 25 years, and finally a fish caught. I mean, is that the analogy of that? Like, I don't want to know I don't want to know who the fish is or what they produce from it. It's just, I don't know. I couldn't care less about that article. And then, just kind of hanging out, watching TV this past weekend with my wife, and we were talking about sequential TV shows and non-sequential TV shows. Like, if you watch, and I'll use cop genre in the same thing here. If you're watching, say, Blue Bloods, it's episodic. Like, you got to follow from one episode to the next, new partners. Same thing with Chicago PD. That stuff kind of happens. And you have to follow storylines that carry over. In SVU, I think what makes SVU so great and been on for 20 plus 21 years or whatever it is that even though characters change, people come in and out, the story is encapsulated into that 148-minute, piece that they put out every week or whenever it comes out. And you could tune into anyone at any time. It's been going on for years, starting with the original Law and Order and now with SVU for the longest time. These just play out of order on different channels. USA, Oxygen, my buddy's channel, and not one. Oh God, that's Ion. My buddy works for Ion. Ion plays all this stuff, all this different stuff. So, and they recycle them all in and out. Now I think it's a Hawaii 5-0 thing they have going on. But the coolest thing about SVU, we were kind of sitting around, and it was late in the day, and we had done all the things we had to do for the day. And we're just flipping through Hulu or whatever. I'm like, oh, there's a new episode of SVU. And she's like, oh, I haven't seen any episodes this season. She's like, yeah, you know what? It doesn't matter, because it's going to be the same main number of characters in the unit trying to figure things out as there is, every episode. It's just a different case. So we ended up hanging out watching that. So shout out to SVU, and definite shout out to that HBO Max. I don't write, as of right now, I don't have a bunch of commercial sponsors. At first, I was kind of bummed on the HBO Max thing, but then I've come around to it with a couple things they've put out. The Tiger Woods thing was phenomenal. This is really good. So I don't even know what it costs per month. You could probably get some kind of coupon thing to get the first 3 months free to check it out. But I wanted to just talk a little bit about stuff I had going on this weekend, some things I thought about from last night watching this episode. And you guys have a great day. Talk to you later.
Hey, America. Check out 16W with Norman. All the self-deprecation and stupidity you can handle, available wherever you download and listen. Rate, share, and review. I'm Chris Cody. Arrgh!